Hey guys, so somebody in the comment section in my last tier list video actually asked me to make a best alts tier list video. And here it is. And I would think that this is one of the best times to make it and come out with it because the Power Pass is just around the corner. So hopefully this will help you decide what you want to make for your next Power Pass. But as always, I would say that with any of these tier lists, they are very much, my opinion and the opinion of chat. So even if you don't agree with something, you shouldn't really, of course, take it to face value. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, because Miso said it's not a good alt, I'm not going to make it, right? It definitely shouldn't be that case. You should take what I say into consideration when you're making the alt. And at the end of the day, if you still decide, despite all the pros and cons that I've listed out, you still want to make that class, go and do it, because the best class to make is the class that you're going to enjoy and find fun to play. But for this tier list, I would say there's one word that really rings super, super important. And that word is value. Because all these characters, in the way that they're rated, it's not just by like how much damage they do, how cheap they are to make, all that, it's not just one of each of those. It is all of those combined to really put out, and come to this one word of value. Because in my opinion, the best alt to make in the game, of course, is one that you enjoy, but also the best alt to make in the game is the alt that gives the best value, the best bang for your buck. You get the most out of it for as little investment as possible. Investment in money, investment in time, all of that, right? The most bang for your buck. So that is how this tier list is going to be, ordered and created. So hopefully you guys find some value out of that. I said value. But yes, hopefully you find some value out of this tier list and enjoy it. And at the end of the day, it's all good and fun, right? Tier lists are all just for fun, but also going to be very informational as well. But before we hop into the tier list, I want to tell you a little bit about ExitLag. Have you ever had an experience where you're playing a fast-paced game online, like a shooter or a MOBA or even an MMO, and you've had issues with your ping? Well, ExitLag is an application that's designed to help you with that and make your gameplay experience smoother. So you can kind of think of playing a game online as kind of like driving a destination. When you're trying to get somewhere, there's going to be multiple routes to get to that destination, right? Some are faster, some are slower. And what ExitLag will do is it'll help you find the smoothest route for you to game on so that you get the lowest latency as possible. And with its smart routing technology, it actually simultaneously lets you use every single route at once. So that if one of the routes were to say slow down, it seamlessly connects you to the next fastest route, so your game continues to run smoothly. So to demonstrate the effectiveness of ExitLag, I'm hopping into one of my favorite games of all time, Team Fortress 2. As you can see on this server, I have about 95 or so ping, 95, 94, 93, above 90 ping, right? So that is what it is like without ExitLag. Now I'm going to log out and go turn on ExitLag and show you what the results look like. So now I'm back in the same server. As you can see, the ping has dropped quite a bit, at least 10 ping. And this is the effect of ExitLag. Using ExitLag, you are able to use the most optimal connection routes to make it so that when you're playing your game, you are getting the best connection possible to it and the lowest latency. But it doesn't end there, actually. You see, with the game that we play, Lost Ark, there are versions like Lost Ark Russia, Lost Ark Korea, Lost Ark Japan, rest in peace, that we actually don't have access to because if you're playing in another country, you can't play those servers. But with ExitLag, you actually can, and let me show you. So to show you this, I'm going to be actually on the Lost Ark Russian server launcher. As you see, VK Play Game Center, this is the Lost Ark Russian launcher. When I press this button, it says, unfortunately, RU version of Lost Ark is not available for your region. Well, that's because I don't have ExitLag turned on. So I'm going to exit this and turn ExitLag on and see what happens. So now you can see I have flipped ExitLag on. I have both Lost Ark RU and VK Play Game Center enabled. And we press play and we'll see what happens. As you can see this time, the game launches. And boom, we are now in Lost Ark Russia. So as you can see, I've used ExitLag to actually access these games that I couldn't have accessed before in other regions. So how do you get ExitLag? Well, it's very simple. All you need to do is go and sign up with your first and last name, your email, your password, and click this little button right here to agree to terms of service, and then create your account. And then after that, all you need to do is come here to download and press download ExitLag, and you're all set. And after you've downloaded the installer, all you need to do is double click on it to click setup. And then after that, it'll install ExitLag, and you have ExitLag all ready to go. So there we go. It was as easy as that. Go ahead and click on the link in the description below to get ExitLag and see all the promotions they have up right now. Alts. Okay. Yes. Still, Paladin is S tier for an alt. Paladin is an S tier for an alt. I always recommend Paladin and supports in general, right? Supports are really good to make as an alt because we don't have enough supports in the game, and they're low investment classes that can get a lot done. I think these are really good characters for alts because they are low investment classes. You don't have to put much into them. You literally can go 5x3 until like hard Voldus. Like that is how low investment it is. You play with 0 wealth rune, I could recommend Artist over Pally. True, yeah. But the thing is, this is an alt, right? It's not really like based off of like your gear or runes or whatever. I'm assuming for most people who are making alts, they kind of have what they need. They just want to be, you know, thinking about what class they need to make. It's not about like, oh, resources or whatever. It's about, well, it's kind of about resources in terms of like the money you need to spend. But I would say like in terms of like horizontal, they kind of have most of the things that they have. So I think S supports S tier. I think just pick your poison. All of them are going to be about the same in terms of funding. I'd say that again, yeah, you can just 5x3 them. 4x3 support always says. I mean, I've definitely seen those, and they still get accepted. Is the crazy thing, right? The 5-3 supports still get accepted sometimes. So yes, I think supports are very good alts to make. I think, of course, Predator Slayer is probably still up here in good alts to make. They're fairly cheap. You don't need much investment on them to make them good. But, you know, they're just consistent. They're strong. They're good to make as an alt. They're very efficient. Going on the opposite side of things, EO, probably one of the worst alts to make. Unless, like, here's the thing, right? I'm not going to say it's the worst alt to make because it's expensive. But the thing is, unless you're a really top tier player, it's going to be hard for you to learn the class. There's a lot of time investment into the class to make it good. And for that reason, I think it's low tier. Maybe we can move it up a little bit. I don't know. But I just don't think that it's a very good class to make if you're using it as an alt, because you're not going to have as much time to be able to invest into your alt. Put Arcana in there too. I agree. I think that Arcanas are probably pretty bad alts as well for the same reason. Because being able to play them at a good level is very, very tough. And you need to spend the time and effort into it. You literally probably need to lab this shit in Trixian type of time. Like, you got to go into the hyperbolic time chamber to get good at these classes. And unless you're a god gamer, it's going to take you a while to do that. So that's why I would put it down there. EW, yes. I would say EW is probably a class that I wouldn't recommend as an alt for that reason. On top of the fact that it's very costly to make. You literally, it needs 7 damage gems, guys. It needs 7 damage gems. It's very clunky. You need to, like, basically kiss ass. Like, not even sniff ass. You need to kiss ass to play this class well and get maximum damage. So that's why, you know, I think any class with like an extremely high damage, like ceiling to learn, I would probably put it down at the bottom for people to make as alts. Especially if they have like high damage gem requirements as well, right? Lunar needs all wealth size CDR gems. Honestly though, if you think about it, right? I do have all the wealth runes, but I only have level 7 gems, and my damage is not that bad on Lunar Reaper. I think my damage is actually pretty damn respectable on Lunar Reaper. I'm out here doing like 16 to 18 on trees as a 1580 Lunar Reaper with level 7s. I think that's not that bad, which is why I probably put it like a tier above. At the moment, I kind of want to put it into C tier for the reason, but I don't know for sure. We'll have to see. And also, we also gotta make this tier list, right? We gotta also make this tier at the bottom. Add row below. Who? Nobody plays this, right? We gotta make this tier as per usual. Nobody plays this class. We gotta put our DPS supports in here. Unfortunately, I really wish that they would buff DPS supports one of these days. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a fun playstyle, but it is what it is. Knight's Edge S? I'd say Knight's Edge is a pretty good class to make for sure as an alt. It's I would say it's a pretty good alt to make. Cheap to get into, right? Is a crit swift class. It's not the cheapest by any means, because it is a popular class. It's a cheap class though. Runs 5 damage gems, so it's not terrible, but you don't have to invest in it a lot to get some really good numbers. It is a little bit hard to learn, yes, but it's not like rocket science, to be honest. So if you want to make Knight's Edge an alt, I think it's a very good alt to make. A lot of things go into this tier list, right? It has to do with like damage potential, cost, like how easy it is to play. Like all that stuff goes into it. Gunslinger above the tier no one plays. I don't think it's over here, to be honest. I don't know. It's a little. We could put it here. I think there is a world where we put it up a little bit higher, but I do at the moment. We can put it here, right? Because again, 7 damage gems. It's a hard class to play. It's squishy. You're also not getting much damage out of it. Let's be real. Like, Gunslinger's damage is not terrible. It's good, but it's not the amount you need to invest into it in terms of gems, in terms of time learning the class, all that stuff. It's not a very good return for your investment. So I have a friend on the Discord right now. This is the only reason why. Oh, sorry, I'm push talking. I have a friend on Discord right now, and he plays both GES and Deadeye at a high level. His GS is his main. It's 1620 plus 23, I think 22, 23 weapon, all level 9s, mostly level 10 gems. Got some level 9s. It's his main. He also has played gun Deadeye for a very, very long time. It's 1620, I believe, now as well, if I remember correctly. He plays both of these classes. And here's his logic, right? And I kind of agree with him. When you break it down, right? Both of these classes require basically the same amount of investment in terms of time and energy, in terms of damage gems, in terms of money spent, in terms of like practice. But it is a little bit more clunky and harder to play Deadeye. But at the same time, you get a lot more damage out of it. And as a result, I think it actually does make sense to put it a little bit higher on the tier list. It's harder to play, but at the same time, I don't think it's like way, way harder to play. But also, like, the thing is, it's not like here, right? It's not like these classes hard to play. It's like these classes hard to play. The only reason why Deadeye is like so hard to play is because the class itself is kind of clunky and it requires you to be like really close to the boss to like do max damage. But that's something you can get used to pretty quickly. It's not like a hands thing. It's like how do I say? It's like something you get used to, right? How about investment though? The thing is, I think you need to do this more investment in this class to do damage compared to this one. But yeah, so that's why I would put the Deadeye, the enhanced Deadeye above this. The investment is basically the same in terms of time, in terms of damage gems, all that stuff. But the thing is, you're going to be getting more out of the enhanced weapon Deadeye than the Gunslinger in terms of damage. And I think, yeah, for sure. Time Hunt in C tier? I think so. I think it's a generally easier class to play for sure. And it gets some pretty decent numbers with less investment. I mean, for one, I think Time to Hunt probably Time to Hunt probably uses less damage gems, right? Yeah. So in terms of damage gems and cost, it's going to be cheaper. The amount of damage you're going to get out of it is probably going to be higher if you're not as practiced with it. I think Time to Hunt is higher for sure. I agree. Don't think lunar positioning on fights like Vicus is easy. It can definitely be hard for certain fights. It can be harder in certain fights for sure. What about summer damage difficulty? I mean, literally this class right here. I would put this at the same tier as these ones. Don't play this class. Like literally, don't even. I might even do this right now. I might even do this right now because at least with these ones you get damage, right? This one you don't get damage. This one you have to work just as hard and you don't get damage. I'm sorry. TTH, Legalia, Gap, Tofu, DS, SS. Oh yeah, I mean TTH is stronger. It's a stronger engraving out of the two. To be honest, Enhanced Deadweight needs a little bit less investment in Gunslinger since the shotguns make up so much of the damage. Yeah, I mean you can think about that for sure. I think that is true. You can probably get away with lower level damage gems on like your rifle skills and like your pistol skills. I don't know if you use any on pistol skills, but you can get away with lower damage on your less damaging skills and less damaging weapons. Demonic A tier, not too much investment. It's it's hard to say. I'll put it in an A for now, but the problem with the transform classes, right? The reason why I hesitate on transform classes is because yes, they are overall going to be cheaper in the long run, right? When you're thinking about maxing out your characters with level 10 gems, things like that, these classes are for sure going to be cheaper. But the problem is the upfront cost is actually more expensive than other classes. Because I've talked about this many, many times, but if you're taking a regular class to 1580, 1600, you're fine with level 8 gems all the way up to 1600 probably. You might get kicked up a little bit more with a level 8 gems on 1600, but you'll get accepted to some parties. 1580 level 8 gems are totally fine. But with a demonic shadow hunter and a legacy scouter, you basically need level 10s starting at 1580 in order to not get gatekept. And this is purely a gatekeeping thing. It's not about damage done. You can definitely do damage and clear the raids just fine with lower gems, but it's purely a gatekeeping reason. They only need 2 damage gems, yes, but again, at 1580, right? You're probably rocking with, let's say you're making a Mokoko Express character. You were totally fine at 1580 with event gems. You don't need to invest anything into your gems at level 1580. But let's say you're making a Mokoko Express character with a demonic or a scouter, a legacy scouter. At 1580, those event gems are not going to cut it. People are not going to let you in. So that's why the upfront cost is higher for making these classes. Because in my mind, if I want to make these classes, I have to get those 2 level 10 gems, which is guaranteed to be like 600 to 800k, right? So just to play this class and get into parties, I need to invest 600, 800k, which is more expensive than anything else pretty much, maybe other than honing at that point for 1580 and 1600. So that's why I'm hesitant about putting these class in A tier, and I might even move them down to B tier because the upfront cost of making these classes and playing these classes is so much higher. Like if you had them as your main, I think like as a main class, maybe they would be like an A tier, like in terms of a cost and affordability. But in terms of like the classes and the alts, it's very hard to do, level for 1580 and 1600. Beginning wise is expensive, but it's not so much in the long run. Exactly. But the thing is, when you're thinking about the alt, right? When you're playing an alt, you're not thinking about the end game. You're not thinking about 1620 level 10 gems. You're not thinking about that. When I'm playing an alt, I'm thinking, okay, the most I'm probably going to push this is probably 1600, maybe 1610, right? 1620 for like the alts I really, really love, but for the most part, most people aren't pushing them that high. They're going to get it at 1580, 1600. That's where their alts are going to be parked for the most part. Some people are going to be lower. So, but I'd say on average, 1580, 1600. And if I'm playing one of these two characters at 1580, 1600, again, I'm probably going to have the level 10 gems. Yeah, 1620 is not all territory. Exactly, it's not. Transformation class were good as alts before they gave us free gems for sure. Yes, and also before we got to the point where we kind of required level 10 gems from them as well. I would say, in terms of Glaive as an alt, I probably wouldn't put it in B. Honestly, I might put Pinnacle in A. And here's my reasoning, right? I don't think Pinnacle's very hard to play. It is an entropy class, but I don't think it's rocket science to play. But the thing is, in terms of what you get for your investment, it's huge because you only need, I'd say, like basically 7s for the class to feel good. Might even be less. I don't know. I've just never played with less than 7s. You're bringing synergy to the party. You're bringing, all your utility to the party. And a lot of people will accept you. And you still do decent damage. You still do good-ass damage. And you don't need to invest that much into it. And again, you're just not going to really get gatekept. You can, of course. So people are going to gatekept a lot of keep for a lot of reasons. But your likelihood of getting gatekept is less than like a lot of these other classes. Because you're bringing that synergy. You're bringing that utility. You honestly are fine with level 7 gems. Like even level 7 gems. All level 7 gems on Pinnacle Glaive for quite a while. In terms of like clunkiness and class feel. But then, of course, when you start approaching 1580, 1600, you're going to want to upgrade them so you don't get gatekept. Pistolier. I'm going to put them in A for now. The reason why I might move them down is because, again, you have to think about it this way, right? It's investment for damage. Unfortunately, the class's damage ceiling is a little bit lower. I would say it's quite a bit lower than Pinnacle Glaive. So that's why I kind of hesitate on putting them on the same tier. Like, you're going to have to, in terms of like your investment versus return, right? You always want to, like a really good class is a class you can invest very little into and get very high return. But in terms of the investment for a class like Pistolier, you're going to invest, let's say, a good amount of money, right? Let's say even like level 8s gems or something like that. But then the thing is, you're not getting as much back as you're getting on a Glaiver. Like the amount of money you're going to invest in a Pinnacle Glaiver versus this class, you're going to get more out of the Glaiver than this class, like way more. And that's why I'm like hesitant on putting on an A tier, and I might put it down at like the top of B tier or something like that. For me, it's A because it looks fun. I mean, that's kind of up to personal opinion at that point. But I think from an objective standpoint, from a statistical standpoint, from like a reward for like a value standpoint, right? I think the value for a Pistolier is probably lower than quite a bit lower than that of a Glaiver. Okay, so we're gonna move on to, let's see, Hunger. I think let's go with, because we already put Lunar here, right? And we might move this up and down, but Hunger, I might put this B tier, maybe even A tier. Like again, I think I move this like this and move it like that. I think in terms of the investment for Hunger these days, it's not that high, and you get a lot of damage out of it. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty decent. It's not bad. What is this year for? It's for best alts to make. Hunger Harkers. On top of being a strong class, you only use 4 damage gems, so it should be relatively low investment if you plan on upgrading the gems. Yeah, I agree. Though I think you would ideally like to have a pretty high level cooldown gem on your Shadow Vortex, but I think, it's not that bad, especially nowadays. If you have a lower cooldown for that. Let's move on. I think Ari is also a very bad alt to make. It's maybe not like down here. I don't know. What do you guys think? This is a hard one for me because it's so strong. It's so strong. But it's also like you do absolute Z if you suck at this class, right? It's kind of like the same place of these classes. It's so hard, but it's so strong. And most people just aren't able to play that. You could like invest all this time, like it requires so much time investment to make it good. RE spec class is very expensive. Yeah, it is. Again, that's why I put it, down here. It's hard to learn. It's, you do absolute Z with it if you suck. It's expensive. It's a spec class that has requirements for a good bit of damage gems as well. So I think because of that, it's going to be down here as an alt. A class that's not bad as an alt, maybe Loyal Companion I put here, just because, again, of the damage ceiling problem. The amount that you invest into it, like if you're let's say you had like a Makoko Express character, right? You're trying to choose a Makoko Express character, pushing this class to 1580 compared to like this one. Yeah, no, this is you don't want to play this class compared to this class. LC damage kind of bad, but it's very comfy to play as an alt, stress free. Yeah, I think it's fine as an alt, but the thing is, would I recommend as a top tier alt to make? Probably not. For like play style wise, yes. But the thing is, again, for an alt, I'm always thinking about this thing in mind, right? Value. The amount I put in versus how much I get out, right? And for the most part, people are looking for big numbers in this game. So if I'm putting in X amount and wanting to get X back, these two classes are going to give me way more than this one. Yeah, if you want a main sharpshooter, do this. This is going to be a good investment. This is going to be a better investment for sure. I'm having a discussion with my friend right now, and we're talking about whether or not this is better than Pinnacle. Here's the reason why I wouldn't put it above Pinnacle. Again, it has to do with the whole package, right? It's not just about damage, but like you're gonna get gate kept a lot less on Pinnacle compared to Death Strike. Like you're probably not gonna get kept on either of them as much, but like you're bringing so much more to the party as Pinnacle, so you're gonna be wanted so much more. That's why I put Pinnacle above it still. Overrating Hunger as always. I think they're about the same. They're very similar. It's very close. Both Sharpshooter, Death Strike Sharpshooter, and Hunger, I'd say are very close. And I think like here's the other thing, right? At the end of the day, it is a little bit harder to learn Reaper just because of the squishiness. There, it does require a little bit more hands. I know it's not like a big thing that I'm valuing on. Like, it is a thing that I'm valuing on this tier list, right? Hands and like difficulty to play. So I think it is probably a little bit more difficult to play Reaper just because of the survivability piece. In terms of like actual like play and like how like the actual like dexterity and like pressing the buttons, I think like Reaper's probably a bit easier. But again, it's like the survivability piece that brings it down just a little bit. I think Mayhem Slayer is a pretty good alt to make. It's not bad. It's like dirt cheap to make, but you're gonna get some really good ass damage. Like, and honestly, I might even put it up like, I don't know. These are very similar. Again, you do get kind of like gate kept a little bit more than these two classes, in my opinion. Though actually maybe not more than Reaper. But like, these classes are so similar. I think like it might be like this, to be honest, just because it is tankier and the investment is lower than Reaper. The damage for Reaper is higher, though, in my opinion. But it's just, at the end of the day, they're very interchangeable, in my opinion. Predator S, Punisher have more value and better than Predator. But the thing is, here's the thing, right? There's a part of this that also is like, how hard is it to learn? And how clunky is it, right? And I think because of that, I wouldn't put Punisher up there. Also, it's a spec class, which automatically makes it a lot more expensive to make than Predator and a lot of these other classes as well. So like all these things kind of come into play when thinking about like what the cost, where I put this. Like, is this a good alt to make? I think in terms of like, it's like not bad. You get some really good damage, right? It's kind of clunky to play, but you do get rewarded with the damage. It is a spec class, but you also don't need that many damage gems, right? I think it's not a bad alt to make. It is clunkier, but it does some really dang good damage. So if you're able to play the class well, you're gonna get a lot of bang for your buck for sure. Mayhem's very easy to learn. Exactly, exactly. So that's why I put it here. There's a chance it's here, but I kind of like it here. I kind of like it here, to be honest. I kind of like it in A tier. I never saw Predator. Who could be better than any Predator who could be my Punisher? Yeah, I mean, again, I think in terms of damage wise, Punisher is going to be better than Predator for sure. The damage is higher, but for the most part, if I'm thinking about an alt, I don't want an alt that's like requires me to invest a lot of time in learning. I think like learning time and like time getting acclimated with the class is definitely plays a part into this. Also, the investment in yeah, again, like learning how clunky it is, playing around all its like, you know, playing around all the inconveniences. Those are all part of it. And that's why I recommend. And also, this class is just way cheaper because of the accessories. The upfront cost of this class is way cheaper. But yeah, so that's where I'd put Punisher Slayer, probably here. It's a good alt. It's not a bad alt, but you do have to like factor in like it is a kind of clunky class to play. So if you're okay with that, then go ahead and make it. It's a good alt. You get some really good damage out of it for not much investment, especially because you don't run all that many damage gems and stuff. I think that if I were an answer, I would probably put this at a pretty high tier for an alt. It does really good damage, very good synergy, very good to use it doing mechs. Like you're gonna get a lot for very little for this class for sure. It's a hitmaster class, fairly easy to play. It is high APM though. That's one thing you got to take into account. But in terms of the investment for what you get a lot for very little. And for that reason, I don't know. I might put like ESO War Dancer here or somewhere around here. It's probably the same as Pinnacle Glaver, to be honest. Um, it's actually kind of hard, right? I feel like both these classes are just very good in very good places, but I don't know if I'd put it above Pinnacle Glaver is the thing. I might. I think they're all kind of in the same place. I might even put Pinnacle Glaver up there, but I think the reason why I would put these two classes like it's so hard because they're like good for different reasons, right? And like again, they all provide very good synergy. In my opinion, maybe Pinnacle Glaver provides a little bit better synergy. But the thing is, it's also an entry class, so it makes it a little harder to play. I think the difficulty of the class is a bit more hard than this one, but also at the same time, ESO might be around the same difficulty. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I might want to put this above these two. Hey guys, editing me so here. So I accidentally played some copyrighted music in the background in this part. So unfortunately, you won't be getting the audio for this. But basically what happened was I moved Pinnacle Glaver up to S tier just because, in my opinion, I think Pinnacle Glaver is one of the most balanced or like most well-rounded classes in the game. And it provides so much in terms of utility, damage, stagger, everything, right? And it has the best synergy in the game. So because of that, I moved it up to S tier to make everything make a little bit more sense. And I also moved on to the arrows a little bit and talked about why I put them in the middle / bottom of A tier, because in my opinion, the Wind Fury arrow just has it's a decent damage ceiling, but not like really, really high. But it's a very low investment and easy to get into class. And with the Drizzle, I put it a little bit lower just because it is harder to do damage with the class because your Sunbeam or whatever it's called is just harder to hit. And that's kind of your main damaging skill. And if you're not able to hit that all very consistently, you're just going to be doing lower damage. So yeah. So I put that here. I put that here. I think that looks good to me. Robust, I might put like here. And here is why I don't really think Robust is a very good alt. I think that you need some pretty high investment to make the class strong. I think that it is a class that is very clunky and slow, and it doesn't do mechs. It does okay damage, but again, I think there needs to be put in quite a bit of investment to make it do more damage. You need, granted, there are builds that can use level 7 gems to make it okay, but even like then, like okay, I just don't think it does very much damage. Have you played all the classes and specs as you're doing this on spec level? I played 23 classes, but I kind of afford to try all specs. I mean, and there's a reason why I'm doing this with everybody in the stream. There's a reason why I'm taking opinions from other people because I don't play all the classes, right? But hopefully, with 150 something viewers in here, most of the people have touched most of the specs in here. Spec class requires high gem break points for good performance. Play style can be stressful. I think that this class also doesn't do very much damage with low spec. For some context, I do play robust. Robust is one of my main 6. I crueled my Akande with all people at 1580 on robust all gates. I mean, I'm not saying that it's low damage. And also it's hard to say because like it like depends on like the people like around your level. Like how are they playing? But like I think like it it's not even just the damage, right? I think it's just a clunky class overall. Like I think the spirit bomb piece is kind of like a spectacle that like a lot of people like when they first start playing it. But then after you start playing it for a while, it just becomes another move. And when you miss it, it feels really bad. Yeah, it also depends on your bomb crits, exactly. Like if you miss your like, there's some real lows for this class. Like you can feel so really bad for this class. And again, it's very clunky to play because half the time you're playing this class, you're not doing anything. You're literally just walking around auto attacking. But so as I was saying earlier, I don't know where I got interrupted, but Robust Soul Fist, unfortunately, because the highest damage ceiling build, which is what most people have in Korea, as you can see, it's Spec Swift, Spec Swift, Spec Swift. That build is very inaccessible for most people because you need very high level cooldown gems and you need elixirs and everything to make that work. So most people who are playing Robust Soul Fist are not going to be able to play that build. And as a result, their damage is not going to be very high. They're going to be relying on the crit spec build, which relies heavily on the spirit bomb to land. And if you don't land that or miss the crit, you're basically losing out on 30% of your damage. So as a result, this class I would say is not the best alt to make. And also it's a spec class in that. I think Taijutsu is an extremely good alt to make. I might not put an S. I might put an A along with these other classes. Yeah, I think I'm going to put it along with these other classes. Very easy to play class, straightforward to play class, very strong, very good bang for your buck. It's, it gets the job done. You put it in there, it does damage, good stagger, good destruction, very good overall, easy to play class, low investment because it's a spec swift class. It's very good alt. Taijutsu S. I wouldn't put it in S just because like maybe like that or like that. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'd say again, I put this lower because it is a spec class, right? So it is a little bit harder to play, a little more clunky. Maybe something like that. Maybe it's something like that. Or something like this. Again, it's just such a efficient, strong class that I would just rate it very highly. Yo, Nightmares, thanks so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thanks for dancing out with me. There's a world where I could put this in S, but I'm just gonna keep it in A for now because it doesn't provide the same synergies as some of these classes, and it's also not as strong as these classes. I mean, honestly though, I might even do something like that. it's just like it's a very straightforward class, but these are also very straightforward classes to play, right? I feel like if I do this, it would have to be like that. Let's move on to Death Blow Striker. I would honestly put them right here. They're expensive to make because they're spec classes, especially Deathblow because you have spec breakpoints. You don't need Umar Laz, but it is ideal. But also they're just very unrewarding classes to play at the moment. I feel like the investment you put into them is not what you get back. And because of that, I'm gonna put them down here. Put it down to D? You want me to put it down to D? Why do you want me to put it down to D? Gay kept forever rather have SO word answer? Because he needs some of this. I don't think I'd put it down to D. I don't think I'd put it down to D. It still provides good synergy, guys. It still provides good synergy. And if you're an alt, you're not running Umar Laz, most likely. If you're running an alt, you're likely not running Umar Laz. And as a result, they'll probably be doing mechanics. So I'm going to put them to C. I think they're fine to make, like, they're not fine to make as an alt, but I don't think they're that bad to make as an alt. I think it's fine. But, you know, they're definitely very clunky. You're not going to be getting much out of them in terms of like your investment. It's like B plus at best in terms of damage, but it's also like hard to land your back attacks. And as a result, it's hard to play as an alt. It's harder to play as an alt. But I do have Umar and I still mech him like Miso. I mean, I do mechs when I need to. When I need to do mechs, I'll do them. But the thing is, when I don't need to, I'm not gonna do them. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Shock. I think Shock, it might be... Shock might be somewhere like here-ish. Again, it's not that I wouldn't recommend it. It's just quite a bit below here in terms of like, because of the clunkiness, and also it's a spec class as a result. So it's just a little more clunky. It's a little bit more pricey in terms of the entry point. Again, it's not that it's much worse than this one in terms of damage, but just like the clunkiness and like play style wise, in my opinion, most people probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But again, at the end of the day, it's a play style thing, right? So if you think you would enjoy the play style, you know, you could probably put it up here or something like that. But I'd say, in my opinion, in my mind, I've heard a lot more people complain about Shock compared to Tai. Heard just like pretty much no complaints about Tai, to be honest. But I've heard a lot of complaints about playing Shock. Tai's so much fun than Shock. Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many people say like good things about Tai. I literally have not heard any people say anything like, it's not nothing good, but like they always caveat it. They're like, yeah, it's strong, but then for Tai, I literally hear everybody rave about this class. They love playing this class. So if you're gonna make an alt, I think it's just gonna feel a lot better to play this class over this one, and the damage differential isn't that big. You like Shock? I mean, there's gonna be people who like it, right? I'm not gonna say people don't like it, but the thing is, I've heard a lot more people say great things about Tai, and I've also heard, and every time I hear somebody talk about Shock, there's always a caveat to it. It's always like, I like it, but type of situation. But at the end of the day, like I said, it is a play style difference, a play style preference. So if you like playing a more slow but kind of bigger hitting, bigger numbers class, play Shock. If you like a faster hitting, you know, class that moves faster, has a lot of mobility, things like that, play Tai. They're both very good classes to play. Okay, so that's where I'd put the scrappers. Zerker, BT, honestly, I'd probably put it down here as well. It's not that it's not strong. It is a lot more of a clunky class to play. Again, it's that clunkiness factor that comes in. It's a play style difference. It's a time investment difference. The learning curve for playing BT is a lot higher than Mayhem, and the performance overall for most people are gonna be very similar. But yeah, BT, I would say that in terms of clunkiness and overall feel of the class, just much worse than Mayhem, but it does pump. It does quite, if you're good at the class, it will do more damage than Mayhem for sure, but most people aren't going to be getting to that, especially when you're playing it as an alt. If you like higher damage ceiling classes, then you could put it up here, but if you're talking about comfort and play and learning curve, BT Zerk, I'd probably put it down here. You need a high amount of gems to be worth it to BT and really high spec. Yeah, the investment, especially as a spec class, is going to be higher. You need the better gems. It's just overall harder to play this class. Like, it's hard. The entry, the how tall you must be to play this class, how long your dick must be to enter this zone. Like, it just needs to be a lot higher and longer. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is. BT just better Mayhem IMO. I mean, I think for most people who are able to play the class well, like, you're gonna feel like BT is just a lot better than Mayhem. But for a lot of people who don't have the investment to make an alt, like, very good, right? A very high level of investment, a lot of money, they're doing it on the cheap. BT is gonna be a lot harder to make feel good. If you have the money, if you have the investment, it can be a lot higher. But for the most part, most people aren't going to want to invest that much into their alts. BT higher than Robust Soulfist? Yeah, I can agree on that. Yeah, I can agree on that. Maybe it's something like that. Or something like this. S is good alts. Yes, S are good alts to make. And when I'm talking about good alts, it's a couple things, right? It's not just like, so what are the biggest thing, the biggest piece of the pie, I'd say, when it comes into this tier list is the value that you get out of the class. How much you invest into the class versus how much you get out. And that comes in the form of damage. That comes in the form of utility. That comes in the form of getting gate kept or not. How fun the class, like, or not how fun the class is, but damage, utility, gatekeeping. A lot of those things come into like the value of the class. Like, because on an alt, I don't want to spend the amount of money that I'm going to be putting into a main, right? So I'm going to be spending less into the class, putting less into the class. I want to be getting as much as I can out of that class. Moving on, we have AT Scouter. I think AT Scouter is honestly a pretty good alt to make. It's very strong. It's not like a super, from what I hear, it's not super hard to play. But if you play it well, you will get a lot of bang for your buck for this class. Okay. I honestly also think Barrage, maybe like that, or like that. The only reason why is because, like, I don't think Barrage is a bad bang for your buck either. It's a spec class, but the thing is, it's also, I think it does have some spec breakpoints, right? It might have some spec breakpoints, but I don't think they're super high. You get some really good damage out of it. You do want a higher Barrage gem, though, which is why I might, like, put it down lower. But it's hard to say. I don't play Barrage, so I don't know, like, for a fact. But from what I can tell, it doesn't really need all that much investment to make it strong. But you do want a high level Barrage gem. Why is Punisher above Barrage? I think Punisher pumps more than Barrage. For that simple fact. I think for the investment, Punisher will pump more than Barrage. It's a little bit more clunky to play, but I think, like, again, it's at the end of the day, part of it, the huge part of this tier list is bang for your buck, right? Bang for your buck. I think you get a better bang for your buck off of Punisher than a Barrage artillerist. Also, some people like gatekeeping this class. I don't think people really care too much about gatekeeping the Punisher Slayer. So next up, we are gonna go for FMH. I think FMH is also like very solid. I am tempted to put it next to Nice Edge just purely because of damage. But you kind of do want to invest some high level damage gems into this class to make us like. I mean, even with lower level damage gems and stuff, I still think this class pumps like crazy, doesn't it? In a way, you put Punisher that high on the alt tier list. I mean, I think it's very good. I think it is good, and it's because it's so unpopular, right? I think its engravings are going to be super cheap too. Again, I would just purely put this up here just because like it's very strong. It's not that hard to play. You don't need to invest that much to make it strong. And that's the only reason, that's purely the reason why I put it up here. And like it's one of the newest classes. So it's like bound to be good. Like it's also like not like clunky to play either. When there's too high of a brain required to be A on the tier list, I can bring it down. I wouldn't be opposed to bring it down. Because again, it does pump. It really does. But it is hard to play. I'm not going to say it's not hard to play. It's hard because it is a hard class to play. But again, this is not a... Okay, I think here we go. Here's the difference, right? This is not a new player tier list. If this was a new player tier list, sure, I'd put it down further. But I don't think that the investment, the time investment versus like the time investment to damage ratio is that bad for this class. I think that these classes are just so much harder to play that you actually need to spend a mains level of time investment into playing them well. Like, you need to, I was saying earlier, you literally need to go into the fucking hyperbolic time chamber to learn these classes, to play them to even like a competent level in raids. And that's why I'm putting them so low. It's not that, because like, again, this class is not easy to play by any means. But I don't think it's like, you don't need to go to the fucking hyperbolic time chamber to play this class well. It's clunky, it's hard to play, you need timing for it, but it's not rocket science to play this class. So Surge Deathblade, I might put it like somewhere like here, to be honest. Like here, maybe here. I don't think playing the Surge Deathblade is like rocket science to play, but it is a harder class to play. Like the thing is, but the investment that you put into it is like not that. Surge Deathblade is a little bit hard to rank because it just does so much damage, right? But there are so many bad Surge Deathblades out there, which makes me feel like this class is actually like not that easy to play. Which is why I don't want to rate it super, super high on the alt tier list, because again, with our philosophy of like, we don't want to spend a main's worth of like time investment into this class. I believe Surge depends on how used you are backtacking. You need to Surge before boss turns and how many stacks you're getting to each boss skill when the Surge cutscenes EC. And that's the reason why Surge is a harder class to play, right? Because not only you need to know how to play your class, but it's like learning like when the boss phases, learning what the boss attack patterns, things like that, right? It's like not only do you need to learn your class, but you also need to learn like the boss itself, which is why like this class is so low on the list, because it's really hard to learn how to play the class. But on top of learning how to play the class, you also need to learn how the bosses work. Like the thing is, as an alt, I wouldn't rate it that bad because it is a hard class to play, but you just pump so much with it. So like I might even put it like somewhere like here, to be honest. As an overgeared alt lobby on farm content, Deathblade is the worst. Oh yeah, they definitely haven't changed that. Like it's always been terrible. I honestly might put Surge Blade up here just because of the sheer amount of damage output it puts. Gun Lancer, Blue Lancer, I don't think Blue Lancer's a bad alt per se. But at the same time, I've heard in order to hit the ceiling for blue, it's harder than red. It's cheap lobby queue. Yeah, I think Blue Lancer's a very good alt to make for sure. Where would I put it in A? I'm kind of tempted to put it at the top of the A for some reason. I really am. Because, like, it's like you guys said, you're pretty much never going to get gate kept on it. The investment on it's not super high. It's not very hard to play. Like, you're just going to get a lot of bang for your buck out of this class. And the thing is, if you're playing a blue gun lancer, you're not expecting to do crazy damage. Like, that's not an expectation that you have. I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, or maybe like in the middle, I put red somewhere like right here, somewhere like this, or maybe like this. It might be like this, honestly. It might be like that. I think they're both very good. Blue's good if you can leave with the worst spacebar in the game. I think the spacebar of Gun Lancer fits the class very well, though. I would hate to have honestly, from my experience playing Gun Lancer, I would not like to have a spacebar that dashes me in the same direction I'm facing. Red wants 4 level, 10s, 2 CD, 2 damage, feel good, but that's like main level investment. I think, yeah, in terms of feeling, playing Red Lancer, it does kind of feel rough to play as an alt. I agree. Like, you sitting there waiting for your cooldowns to come up for like 10 years is really, if it's really a feels bad man moment. Gun Lancer has low space cooldown, yeah, it does, which is nice. But I do think, like, because you do need quite a few damage gems or cooldown gems to make it feel good, or like, yeah, I mean, feeling good's very like, even might be a stretch. Like, feel okay, because like you still have to deal with the damage. The downtime is like, yeah. Igniter, it's whatever. It's B tier, honestly. It's a hard class to play, like, and it requires some high level cooldown gems to feel good, especially for the double doomsday, right? But it's not like rocket science to play. But they're getting buffed soon, which is nice. But we're not going to account for that. We're going to account for current Igniter. I think Igniter probably at the bottom of B is what they're not in a great place right now as a class. They need investment. I think that Igniter is probably not a great alt class. I would also put this probably like here or something. It's not a very hard class to play. It's probably a hard class to get to the ceiling, but its floor is not that bad. You don't need a ton of investment. It'll be nice to have a level 10 GT gem, but it's not like the worst thing if you don't have it. And it's gotten quite a few quality of life buffs too. So I think I would put GT probably just like in the middle of B. It's not offensive. It's not bad. It's whatever. BT's better. I'm trying to think because I'm trying to think about my GT, right? How would I feel about my GT versus my robust Soulfist? I would honestly recommend GT more than robust Soulfist. But maybe that's just preference. I think it doesn't feel as clunky to play. Like, actually, GT doesn't feel that clunky to play. I'm going to be real with you guys. It feels good to play. It's a front attack class, and maybe that in itself makes it a little bit more clunky to play compared to, like, a back attack class or a Hitmaster. But, like, as a general class, it doesn't feel that clunky to play. Like, the rotations are fine and smooth. I'm literally using level 7 cooldowns and stuff like that. Everything's fine. When I'm bonking, I feel like a freaking god. Am I doing like the most damage? Not real. Well, it depends. If you know the fight well, you can do more damage. But I don't think it's got a terrible floor either. Yeah, you don't need higher CD gems, so it's a bonus. Exactly. I really don't think GT's that bad of an alt. And this is speaking from personal experience. I don't even talk about conjecture right now. This is speaking from personal experience. I literally, other than the honing, which has been terrible because my luck has been terrible, I have not put that much into this class. I think I put like 30k into this class. I put my level 7 gems on there and a level 8 damage gem on my gravity training. And I feel like I'm doing as much damage as any other classes, if not more sometimes. Like, I honestly don't think it's a bad alt. You're most likely need to learn front attacking and taunt patterns, though, as investment. I mean, I don't think you really need to learn taunt patterns that much because a lot of the game doesn't really let you taunt anyways. And that's kind of like the reason why I wouldn't put it higher on here. I think there is some learning curve to this class that, some people might not want to put into it. Like if there wasn't a learning curve to it, it wasn't like a harder class to play, I'd even put it up here, to be honest. Like I think it's just a very fun class to play that's very easy to get into. But because there is some learning curve to it, I'm going to bring it down a little further. I think this class I'm probably going to put down here. Maybe like here, to be honest. This class is just, at the moment, not in a great spot. MS Summer is easy, though. I wouldn't say it's a hard class to play, but it's just not in a great place right now. I think it's hard because it's clunky and it's very immobile. In terms of like its game plan, it's very simple and linear, but in terms of like the actual execution, it can be a little bit harder. But part of that execution being hard is because the class itself is clunky, which is why I just put it in C, because I just wouldn't recommend most people play the class right now. From what I hear, this class is actually not that bad, so I'm gonna put this here. Of course, this is purely off of other people talking about it. I don't play this class, nor do I know anybody who really plays this class. But from the rumors, they say that it's pretty good to play as an alt. So I'm going to put this right here. Again, I might even put this down here. Nobody plays this. Because of, again, I think we're going to do the same thing as before, right? What we did for our new player tier list. We're going to put this down here purely because I don't know, and I don't think most people know in here. PS, I would personally put somewhere like right here, maybe. It's not a bad alt to have. It's not super hard to play either, especially with the new builds. It does take some investment, but not a ton. It's just a solid class. It's a solid class. It's kind of got okay damage, which is why I kind of put it next to Pistolier, right? They kind of both have okay damage, but, they're not that hard to play. Oh yeah, FP isn't bad. I just think I don't know enough about it to really make a good educated like opinion on it. Give a good educated opinion on it. I don't think anybody in here knows enough either. Is the problem. FE is easy to play. Should be AI mode, just not because of the crazy damage. Yeah, like I said, if I knew more about it, like based off of what I heard, right, from the couple of people who have either touched FPE or know people who play FPE, they say it's not that bad. And based off of that, I'd probably put it in A tier. But just because I don't know enough about the class, and I don't think anybody really knows that well, I'm just going to put it here, just to be safe. Control Glavier as an alt, I think it's fine. It is a very clunky class, though, is the problem. Like, in terms of, like, the mana required for the class, it kind of sucks. But it's not that bad as an alt. It's a cheap class to make. You're going to do decent with it. But at the same time, there is some clunkiness with this class that I probably wouldn't recommend to everybody. FE kind of plays itself sometimes, honestly. I've played 3 build variants from the community guide. It's not wicked damage, but it's very comfy to play, very tanky too, yeah. I mean, maybe we just, put it somewhere like right here. It's kind of like a loyal companion, not crazy damage, but very comfortable to play. You can recommend it to people. It's not bad. I think Reflux Sork, I'd probably put it around Igniter. It's not bad. It really isn't bad. Like, the ceiling isn't bad. I've seen some Reflux Sorks really pump with this, but it is very hard to play and get to that point. So for that reason, I put it here. And then Rage Hammer, I'd probably put it similar to GT. I'd probably put it right next to GT. Punisher still seems a little high to you. I think it could be fair to put Punisher like down here. I think that this could be a little flexible. The only reason why I think Punisher is higher, or like can be higher, is just because it's just a pretty good bang for the buck. But it is a more hard class to play for sure. Putting out Punisher next to BT? Sure. I think I agree with that. I don't get why PS is only B. I think it's way better than DI. So I think, how do I say this? The reason why I put PS down to B is because I think the damage ceiling isn't that high. It's higher than DI, but the thing is, I could move it a little bit higher in the B tier, but I definitely wouldn't put it in an A tier. I think it's a fine and solid class, but I just don't think it's like, you know, in terms of the investment you're gonna put into it, like these classes all provide more and do more damage. Yo, Gooby, thanks for the follow, dude. Thanks for dancing the night out with me.